Imagine this. You open an email, and it's cold, brutally clear. Your dream, maybe your whole future, it hinges on one terrifying number, an IELTS score.
The dreaded IELTS email.
Well, exactly. 7.0 in all bands, and get this 7.5 in speaking, and you need to submit it in 10 business days.
Okay, tight.
But here's the kicker. The earliest you can even book the test is 7 days from now. 1 week.
Wow.
One single week to jump from what maybe you guess might be a 6.5 up to that visa guaranteed 7.5.
Yeah, everything you hear says that's, well, impossible.
Right. Friends say, oh, it takes 3 months, maybe more, just to improve half a band. You feel that knot of panic just tighten.
Mm-hmm. The clock's ticking loud.
But what if I told you this isn't, a story about some linguistic genius?
Yep.
Or just sheer luck?
Okay, I'm listening.
Our source for this deep dive describes it as, well, a desperate plan, a week of absolutely crazy focus, and an exact step-by-step strategy.
And it worked.
It delivered. An overall band 7.5 with an 8.0 in that really daunting speaking section.
An 8.0 and speak it in a week. That's impressive.
The source calls it, and I quote, the literal blueprint that saved me.
Right. So today we're going to unpack exactly that. These proven methods to achieve band 7.5 plus in just 1 week. We're digging into the blueprint.
Extracting those actionable nuggets.
Exactly. And the goal here, it isn't about becoming, a Shakespearean scholar overnight or achieving perfect language mastery in 7 days. That's unrealistic.
Right.
Our mission is to understand the test. The IELTS test itself.
Viewing it differently.
Yeah, viewing it not just as a measure of your English, but kind of like a game. A game with very specific rules, patterns, and honestly, even a few loopholes you can use.
Loopholes. I like the sound of that. Playing the game to win.
That's the idea.
Okay, so before you even think about touching a practice paper, our source says there's this massive mental shift needed, especially for speaking.
Absolutely crucial.
It's not an interrogation, they say. It's a performance. Now, that sounds almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? Letting go of the right answer in a test.
It does sound odd at first, yeah.
How does shifting to focusing on well-delivered answers actually liberate someone? Can you maybe give an example of how that mindset plays out differently in the exam room?
Sure. It's a really fundamental pivot because the examiners, they're not there to judge your opinions, your life story, none of that.
Okay.
They are a trained assessor. They have a checklist. Literally, they're looking for skills. Fluency and coherence, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, your job. Make it incredibly easy for them to tick those boxes.
So you're helping them do their job.
Precisely. So when you stop trying so hard to be interesting or smart and just focus on being clear, being structured, you're basically providing a service to the examiner.
Like being an actor for 15 minutes.
Exactly. Playing the part of a confident, fluent English speaker. Instead of getting all tangled up in what to say, you focus on how you say it. And that, dramatically reduces the pressure.
That makes so much sense, especially with that clock ticking. And then there's the second mindset shift mentioned, embracing your mistakes.
Yes, this one's big too.
It feels like heresy, right? In a test context, what's the real advantage of prioritizing confident, fluent imperfection over striving for, grammatical flawlessness, especially for a 7.5?
It's crucial because, look, in 1 week, achieving perfect grammar is frankly impossible. And trying for it, it's a waste of incredibly precious time.
Right.
If you look at the official scoring criteria, the band descriptors for a band 7 in grammar, they explicitly state some grammatical mistakes persist.
Oh, really? Even at band 7?
Even at band 7. So mistakes are actually expected, even at a pretty high level. But trying to be perfect makes you hesitate. You pause, you stumble.
And hesitation is bad for fluency.
It's the enemy of fluency. The examiner isn't listening for 0 errors. They're listening for your ability to communicate effectively, to get your point across.
So better to just say it.
Almost always better to say something that's, say, 90% grammatically correct, but 100% fluent. than to pause for 5 long seconds trying to construct that absolutely flawless sentence. That pause just kills your fluency score.
Okay, so mindset shift first, then what? What does this mean for the actual, the grind? Our source treated this like a full-time job, 8 hours a day.
Yeah, intense. And they mentioned less time means you have to be even more ruthless with your focus.
Let's dive into that 7-day battle plan then. Day 1, diagnosis and deconstruction. What's the absolute first thing you do?
Right, day 1. The core action is take a full-length, timed practice test. And it has to be from an official source, like a Cambridge IELTS book.
Okay, get a baseline.
Exactly. And this isn't about judging yourself, feeling bad about the score. It's about data, identifying your specific weaknesses.
Like, what kind of weaknesses?
Maybe you consistently bomb the math questions in listening. Or maybe it's those tricky true, false, not given questions in reading. Or perhaps, like many people, structuring that writing task 2 essay feels impossible.
Gotcha. So you find the pain points.
You find the pain points. This gives you the essential kind of brutal data you need to target your efforts for the rest of the week.
And after the test, just look at the score.
No. Then you spend hours, literally hours, analyzing your mistakes, asking yourself why you got something wrong. Did I misunderstand the question? Did I just run out of time? Was it a vocabulary gap?
Brutal honesty required.
Absolutely brutal honesty. No excuses.
And part of that day 1 diagnosis, you mentioned something critical, downloading and reading the official banned descriptors for writing and speaking.
Oh, yes. From the British Council or IDP website, our source calls them the secret documents, the literal marking sheets the examiners use.
A rule book.
It's basically the rule book.
Yeah.
Reading them over and over helps you understand exactly what a band 7.5 speaker actually does, what skills they demonstrate. It's like knowing exactly what's on the test.
Okay, essential intel. So day 1 is diagnosis, understanding the rules. Day 2.
Day 2, the reading gauntlet. For our source, the identified weakness was speed, just reading too slowly.
A common problem.
Very common. So the drills focused intensely on speed and strategy. 2 key techniques. First, skimming. You give yourself just 2 minutes per passage. Goal. Grasp the general topic, the author's main point, and basically the main point of each paragraph. Maybe jot down a 1-sentence summary for each paragraph as you go.
Just the gist.
Just the gist super fast. Then, technique 2, scanning.
Right. Looking for keywords.
Exactly. You read the questions first. Identify the keywords in the question. Then you hunt for those specific words or their synonyms in the text. You actively ignore everything else.
Ignoring information feels wrong in a reading test.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's efficient. The strategy also emphasizes trusting that the answers appear mostly in order within the passage. So you don't waste precious time rereading the whole thing for every single question.
Trust the system. Okay. Day 3.
Day 3 was active listening. The personal weakness identified here was losing concentration, especially in section 4, the long academic lecture.
Oh, yeah, the monologue.
Yes.
Easy to drift off.
Very easy. So the strategy wasn't just passive listening. It was active practice. You listen to official test recordings 3 times. First time, just like the real test, try to answer the questions.
Okay.
Second time, listen with the transcript. Pause it. Understand exactly why you missed an answer. Was it a tricky synonym they used? Did the speaker suddenly shift topic? Or did your mind just wander?
Pinpointing the failure point.
Exactly. Then, the third time, listen again without the transcript. But now, your brain is kind of primed. It's ready for those tricky parts you identified.
Makes sense. Anything else for listening?
Yeah, supplementing this with real-world listening. Things like academic podcasts, maybe on tech, or the environment topics that often come up. It helps get your ear accustomed to that academic speed and structure. Makes section 4 feel less alien.
Good tip. Right. Day 4. Shifting gears to writing. structures, and templates. This was flagged as the biggest fear after speaking.
Very common fear. Writing feels daunting.
But the solution proposed wasn't about becoming a great writer overnight. It was about mastering structure. Now, for someone maybe not confident in writing, won't memorizing templates feel a bit rigid?
Or robotic. But think of the templates more like skeleton. A reliable frame you can quickly flesh out, especially under serious time pressure.
Okay, a scaffold.
The scaffold, exactly. For task 1, academic, the graphs, charts, diagrams, the strategy is memorizing basic structures for each type. Line graph, bar chart, pie chart, process diagram, map.
They all have templates.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The core structure is almost always the same. Introduction, where you just paraphrase the question. An overview highlighting the 2 or 3 biggest trends or changes you see immediately. Then, 2 body paragraphs giving the specific details, grouped logically.
So it ensures you cover the basics?
It ensures you hit all the necessary points for the examiner without having to invent a structure from scratch while the clock's ticking. Saves vital minutes and brain power.
And what about the task 2 essay, the opinion essay?
A simple, robust, 4-paragraph structure is recommended. Very clear.
Layout.
1. Introduction. Rephrase the question, clearly state your own opinion. Done. 2. Body paragraph 1. Your first main point supporting your opinion. Explain it. Give a specific example.
Point, explain, example. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, you'll see that pattern again. 3. Body paragraph 2. Your second main point. Explain it. Give another specific example.
Got it.
4. Conclusion. Briefly sum up your main points and restate your overall opinion, but using different words. That's it.
Simple, clear, effective. And the practice?
The practice on day 4 was writing 2 full-timed essays and 3 timed task 1 reports. Laser focus on hitting that structure and using good linking words. However, in addition, consequently, therefore. It's really about clarity and coherence over trying to be overly clever.
Clarity over cleverness. I like that. Then day 5, the speaking immersion, described as the most important day.
Yeah, this was the big one for speaking prep.
Total immersion. From the moment you wake up, speak only English, even talking to yourself, narrating your actions. Making coffee now, water is boiling.
I know, right? You could almost picture someone doing that, muttering about their toast.
That sounds a bit silly, maybe.
It does sound a bit silly, but I imagine it's incredibly effective. Like you're warming up those speaking muscles, getting your mouth and brain operating in English mode constantly.
Like method acting for language learning. That makes sense, though. Getting comfortable hearing yourself speak English all day.
Exactly. And that leads right into day 6. The dress rehearsal.
Okay, another full practice test.
Yeah, another full-timed practice test. But this time, under real exam conditions. No interruptions, phone off and away, totally focused.
And the purpose here, just more practice.
It was more to see if the strategies learned over the week were actually sticking. Was the targeted practice paying off?
And was it?
According to the source, yes. The scores jumped. Not because their fundamental English ability magically transformed in 5 days.
Right.
But because they got better at playing the game, they were faster in reading, more structured in writing, their listening focus was sharper thanks to the active listening drills.
So the strategies worked under pressure.
They did. And reviewing the mistakes after this test showed fewer errors. And the errors were less careless. It confirmed the approach was solid.
Okay, building confidence, too. And finally, day 7. The day before the test. Review, refine, and relax.
Crucially, relax. This day is explicitly not for last-minute cramming.
No pulling an all-nighter.
Definitely not. It's for targeted review. Maybe quickly go over your writing structure notes or glance at some common speaking part 2 topics you prepared, light stuff.
And the relaxing part.
Super important. The advice is to spend the afternoon actually relaxing. Watch a movie in English, go for a walk, listen to a podcast, whatever helps you unwind.
Why is that so critical?
Because the goal is to walk into that exam room feeling calm and confident, not completely burnt out and stressed. You have to trust the work you've already done during the week. Overcramming on day 7 just ramps up anxiety, which is counterproductive.
Trust the process. Okay. Now, let's dive even deeper into what our source called where the battle was won. Hacking the speaking test for that 7.5 plus.
Yeah, this draws heavily on the day 5 immersion and gets reinforced.
So, part 1, the warm-up questions. The art of the elaborated answer. The big mistake here is giving short, boring answers, right?
Huge mistake. Like, the examiner asks, do you like your job? And the candidate says, yes, I do. It's interesting. End of answer.
That's flat.
It's incredibly flat. It's a massive missed opportunity to show off your range, your fluency, your vocabulary.
So what's the strategy?
The strategy recommended is the ARE method. Answer, reason, example.
ARE.
You train yourself consciously to always answer the question directly, give reason why, and then provide an example or some extra detail.
Okay, let's try that job question again, using ARE.
Sure. Examiner, do you like your job? A 7.5 plus answer might be, yes, I absolutely love it. Answer, answer way. Mostly because I find the work incredibly fulfilling. Reason, I'm a graphic designer, so I get to be creative every day. For instance, just last week I was working on a project for a small local charity and seeing the positive impact my design had. Example, it's really that sense of purpose that gets me excited to go to work.
Wow, okay. Big difference. You immediately hear the fluency, words like incredibly fulfilling, complex sentences.
Exactly. It hits all the marks.
This ARE method, it sounds like it really forces you to dig deeper than just yes or no. How quickly can someone train themselves to think like that, especially under pressure? Is it just repetition?
It's definitely repetition, but repetition with purpose. The day 5 drill for this was intense. Take maybe 100 common part 1 questions, practice them out loud, forcing yourself to use ARE every single time.
100 questions, wow.
Yeah, and record yourself. Listen back. Check. Was my answer long enough? Did I give a clear reason? Was my example specific? By doing it enough times, it starts to become more automatic, almost like a reflex.
So you stop translating in your head.
You stop translating and you start just speaking in structured English responses.
Okay, that makes sense. Part 2 then. Conquering the cue card with a storytelling template. This is the 2-minute talk, right? Where panic often sets in.
Oh yeah, big time panic potential. The common mistake is trying to robotically answer the bullet points on the card, then running out of things to say after 45 seconds.
Been there. So shifting to a personal story template, that feels like a complete reframing. Is there a danger you get too lost in the story and kind of forget the prompt?
That's a fair concern, yeah. But the personal story template is designed to prevent that. You essentially forget the bullet points as a rigid script. They're just a guide, hints.
Okay.
Instead, you tell a story. A simple story with a natural beginning, middle, and end that incorporates the ideas in the prompt.
So what does the template look like?
It's got roughly 5 parts. 1, the opener, just a general sentence to introduce the topic, like, I'd like to talk about a time when, or where most memorable experiences was.
It's the stage.
2, the backstory. Briefly set the scene. When was it? Where? Who was involved?
Context.
3, the main event. This is the core of your story. Describe what happened. Use descriptive words. What did it look like, sound like, feel like?
Bring it to life.
4, the turning point. What was the most important moment or realization in the story?
The climax. Sort of.
Kinda, yeah. And finally, 5, the punchline and feeling. How did the story end? And crucially, how did it make you feel? Why was it significant to you? This last part is gold for showing emotional vocabulary and concluding strongly.
That feeling part sounds key for showing range.
Absolutely.
So the day 5 drill for this. Take 5 cue card topics, 1 minute to prep. But instead of prepping the bullet points, you jot down maybe 4 or 5 keywords based on your story template.
Precisely. So for describe a special gift you received, your keywords might be opener, most memorable gift, backstory, 18th a day, felt lost. Main event, grandfather gave old compass, told story. Turning point, inscription, trust your own direction. Feeling, inspired, clear, still have it, symbol of guidance.
Got it. Just trigger words for your story beats.
Exactly. Then you speak for the 2 minutes, recording yourself. It simplifies what feels like a really daunting task.
Definitely sounds more manageable. Okay, part 3, the discussion. These are the broader, more abstract questions that follow part 2. Key for scoring 8 plus Soleil, you said.
Definitely key for the higher bands. This is where you show you can discuss complex ideas.
And the mistake here is being too personal or too simple.
Yeah. Like the examiner asks, why do you think gift giving is important in society? And the candidate says, because it makes people happy. I like getting gifts.
That's pretty basic. Band 5 or 6, maybe?
Exactly. It's too personal, too simplistic. It doesn't engage with the broader societal aspect of the question.
So the strategy for part 3 is the PEE framework. Point, explain, example. We meet again.
We do. It's a versatile framework for structured answers. Yeah. It gives your responses depth and logic.
Break it down again for part 3.
Okay. First, make your point. A direct answer to the question with a clear main idea.
Okay.
Then, explain. Elaborate on why that point is true. What does it mean? What are the implications?
Go deep.
And finally, example. Provide a specific example to illustrate your point. This could be from your country, from society in general, or even a relevant hypothetical situation.
This sounds quite academic, actually, like writing a mini essay paragraph out loud. How do you stop it from sounding totally rehearsed or unnatural in a conversation?
That's a valid point. The key is practice. You practice using the PEE structure until it becomes second nature. So you're not reciting a script. You're thinking in that structured way as you speak.
Let's try that gift-giving question with PEE.
Okay. Examiner. Why is gift-giving important in society? A 7.5 plus answer might go. Point. Well, I believe gift-giving is so important. Mainly because it's a fundamental way we strengthen social bonds. Explain. It's often not really about the monetary value of the gift, is it? It's more about what the act symbolizes. Thoughtfulness, connection, reinforcing relationships. For example, in my country, during the Lunar New Year, it's a strong tradition for elders to give red envelopes containing money to younger relatives. It's not just cash. It's a deeply symbolic gesture of passing on good fortune and blessings for the year ahead.
Right, you hear the structure, it's impersonal, it uses better vocabulary like strengthen social bonds, symbolizes symbolic gesture, but it flows like a reasoned argument.
Exactly. It ticks the boxes for depth and coherence.
And the day 5 drill for this was finding related part 3 questions for your part 2 topics, practicing 3 or 4 using PEE, recording, checking the structure, the depth.
Yeah. And also, crucially, compiling a little list of useful phrases to introduce opinions or structure your points. Things like, from my perspective, it's generally believed that.
Yeah.
I suppose one of the main factors is, on the one hand, but on the other hand, a good example of this would be conflicting, just having those transition phrases ready helps you sound smoother and more organized.
Building a toolkit of strategic responses. Smart.
Precisely. And woven throughout all this speaking practice, ARE, storytelling, PEE, our source emphasizes consistent conscious focus on those 4 official marking criteria. The pillars.
Right, the examiner's checklist. First, fluency and coherence.
The goal here is pretty simple. Less hesitation, fewer awkward silences.
How do you manage that if you genuinely blank?
Use simple filler phrases. Instead of dead air, say something like, well, that's an interesting question, or let me think about that for a moment. It buys you a second and keeps the flow going.
Good tip. And speak calmly.
Yes. Speaking calmly and smoothly is way more important than speaking super fast. Speed doesn't equal fluency. Smoothness does.
Okay, pillar 2, lexical resource, vocabulary. It's easy to obsess over this, but focusing on just 20, 30 impactful words, not thousands, feels way more achievable in a week.
Totally. It's strategic.
What's the biggest mistake people make when they're trying to, sound smart with big words?
Using words they're not actually confident with, or worse, using them incorrectly. That's a huge red flag for the examiner. It screams memorized list.
Right. Authenticity matter.
Yeah, the realistic goal isn't learning a dictionary. It's mastering 20, 30 high-impact words you can use confidently and accurately. Focus on synonyms for common words instead of good, maybe beneficial, superb, outstanding, advantageous, depending on context.
Upgrading common words.
Exactly. And also having some topic-specific vocabulary ready for common IELTS themes, like the environment words like sustainability, biodiversity, carbon footprint. It shows you can engage with those typical Part 3 discussions.
Makes sense. Third pillar, grammatical range and accuracy. Again, the goal isn't perfection, but showing range. How do examiners really tell the difference between someone who's just grammatically correct using simple sentences versus someone showing range even with a few mistakes?
They're actively listening for evidence that you can control different sentence structures, not just subject, verb, object all the time. Can you use complex sentences effectively?
So how do you practice showing range?
The source suggests deliberately, conscious, trying to include specific complex structures in every practice session you do. For example, make sure you use a conditional sentence. If people recycled more, there would be less pollution. A sentence with a relative clause. The park, which I used to visit as a child, is now a shopping mall. And make sure you're using different tenses appropriately: past, present, perfect, future.
So consciously weaving them in.
Yeah. It's about actively showcasing that versatility, even if a few minor errors slip in along the way. It's okay. Range trumps minor inaccuracies for a high score.
Got it. And the final pillar, pronunciation. Key message here, clarity over accent. Nobody expects you to sound like the Queen.
Absolutely not. It's about being understood easily. The focus should be on things like word stress. Is it impercent or impactant? Getting that right makes a huge difference.
Then intonation.
Yeah, intonation, the music of the language, rising and falling tones. It makes you sound more natural and engaging. A great technique mentioned for this is shadowing.
Shadowing.
Yeah, you listen to a short clip of a native speaker, maybe just a sentence or two, and you immediately repeat it, trying to copy their rhythm, their stress patterns, their intonation exactly.
Like mimicking.
Exactly like mimicking. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly effective for tuning your ear and your mouth to the natural patterns of spoken English.
Wow, okay. So that intense week, our source described it as a blur of focused strategic work. Exhausting, clearly.
Exhausting, absolutely. But it paid off. This plan, while definitely intense, it's powerful proof that with the right strategy, focused on the test, you can make huge strides in a surprisingly short time.
And that personal victory, getting the 7.5 overall, the 8.0 in speaking. The source said it wasn't just relief, it was actual empowerment.
Yeah, the feeling of facing down what felt like an impossible challenge and beating it with pure strategy, that's huge.
It really hammers home that this plan isn't magic, is it? It absolutely demands serious dedication, real hard work, no shortcuts there.
None at all.
But its effectiveness comes from that laser focus on the test itself, not the overwhelming task of trying to master the entire English language in 7 days.
Exactly. It's about being smart, being strategic, and really understanding the rules of the game you're playing.
So you don't necessarily need 3 months. If you find yourself with just 1 week, you have a chance. You have a plan.
You absolutely do. It requires commitment, but it's doable.
So a final thought for everyone listening. What seemingly impossible challenge are you facing right now? Where maybe understanding the game, understanding the rules, and applying a really targeted strategic blueprint might just be the key to your breakthrough.